Okay, I got one question for y'all. I got my own opinion, but I want to hear y'all's as well. What is the minimum ammo capacity for a gunfight? In my opinion, I always said 8. 8 plus 1, not just 8, not 7 plus 1. You know, it's different type of magazines and things out there. They say 10 is the minimum, and I think just having one round behind that is something sacrificial if that's how you're depending on look at it, depending on your surroundings and what situation you think you're gonna be in when it's time for you to pull out that firearm. The reason I say 8 is I have to base it off of my own experience and what I've heard and the few statistics that I typically hear that that's literally not backed up by the FBI. Typically, when I hear how many rounds go into a gunfight, you typically hear in worst case scenario, it's typically around 12. Anywhere with a standard mag can handle, which is as low as 6, and as high as 12, which is what I'm considering the standard. Even though one of the most popular you're gonna see is 15 plus 1 or 8 plus 1. But for example, I'll give you how I decide how much I'm gonna carry when I go out, right? For example, when I go out to a family outing, the most I would have is 8 plus 1, and the reason I say that is typically because I could predict what could happen if things were to go wrong. I'm typically around family, and I'm not the only carrier in my family. And if anything were to happen, typically in a house or by a porch or a pool outing or something of the sort, I'm typically not the only one that can defend my family. So I typically would try to add in how many rounds and guns how many rounds and how many guns would be around me as well. So if my cousin's boyfriend, Will, for example, if he had a gun that's 15 plus 1, and I have a cousin, and let's say she has a minimum 8 plus 1, I'm going to throw that in with my 8 plus 1. We're typically around each other. We typically have our luggage around each other when we could get to it. And we typically all know how to use our firearms to have experience with it to an extent. I may be the one that's most trained with my gun, in my opinion, but that's just one thing I'll choose to factor. For another example, when I walk to the gas station, I typically only carry the 8 plus 1. Worst come to shove, if I've got like a bad feeling, there's an extended mag, that's 10, and if I didn't empty it, it'd be 10 plus 1, which is 11. Altogether, and that's also including the malfunction. Altogether, if the gun runs smoothly, it should be 19 bullets on me. Worst come to shove, somewhere I don't know where I'm going, such as I want to shoot a music video or take pictures, then I may have 2 other extended mags, so altogether that'd be 29. Which means I'd be able to handle any situation that typically come across me. And I also practice on reloads, whether it's with shooting or dry firing in or outside the house. So I feel fairly confident in what I hold. That's another thing too. How confident do you feel with what you hold? Does it have a big enough grip for you? Could you pull it out quickly enough when it's time to actually use it in self-defense from concealment? How long will it take you? What problems do you come across? Is it a big enough grip for you to feel confident for you to grab out of concealment when it's time for it? Smaller guns, even though in those who typically look at the .380 caliber, with the exception of a lot of men, and that's not the stereotype of a lot of women, but a lot of women are typically stereotyped into having smaller guns, or typically with a smaller caliber. And not only does that make it harder for you to shoot, but harder for you to draw from concealment. Misinformation kills, so I had to hit that, right? So, for a private citizen, which I'm assuming you are, or those who typically go out into urban cities, I automatically would say if you're lower than the standard, which I say is 8 plus 1, just because that's what I'm mostly familiar with, please, at the bare minimum, if you feel like you may come across any danger, and you don't have any extra weapons, always bring an extra mag with you. But if not, then obviously you should bring in something that has like a higher capacity if that option is available to you. That also leads me into my next point. How much training do you got? How much training are you planning on putting into it? How much did you actually do? If I cannot hit the range, I have the same paper that you shoot at the range. I have that. I bought it from the range. You can order them off Amazon and you can print them. There's multiple videos on this channel where I'll shoot something as small as a bleach bottle while trying to see me walking away or backing up or trying to gain some distance or quickly drawn from concealment. I think it's important to train because you'll never know how effective or useful a gun is for you until it's time for you to actually practice with it. And when I say practice with it in order for you to properly defend yourself, I'd say 1, do drills such as moving and shooting with concealment, 2, reloading, and 3, moving while reloading just in case one comes to shove. I think they call it SHTF, when shit hits the fan, they call it on YouTube. You always got to prepare for the likely course of action and what you feel like is the worst, 2, I feel like that's also play a part based off of how you carry it. If you're carrying it appendix, 6 o'clock or let's say 3 to 4 or on or off body. If you're going to carry it off body and you don't have any experience with it, obviously, like I said, you may have to go up there and get like the higher capacity guns, in my opinion, or at the bare minimum. For example, the smallest gun I typically hear of the 380 caliber is the Ruger LCP. And that they say is popular amongst women just due to its size, and a lot of them been stereotyped into getting it. If you're carrying that, I'd advise you not carry nothing else in that purse. It may be even too small and things you may have to scourge around for in a time of life or death. One, you can never 100% predict the situation that you're going to be in a time of life or death. If so, and you walked into it, you got everything you deserve. And that don't mean you dead, obviously, but that's a risk that you personally took. Me, for example, I have training. I feel confident that I could quickly grab and reload just in case it were to come to it. I've clutched my shit before, and watch my language, but in public. I've not drawn it on somebody, but drawn it out just in case for an upcoming situation that put me on my guard before. I feel confident with I have. Typically, like I said, I've never been caught off guard in a way that I felt as if I need more. In a situation, in a place that I knew. For like I said earlier, walking back and forth to the gas station, 2 people were following me. After I passed the fence, I put my hand on my gun. At this time, it was just on my side. I didn't think I needed too well, and I was being watched and followed. But as soon as they see me put my hand to my side, despite them not being able to see my gun, they stopped following me and did a completely 360, which is a red flag right off rip. Like I said, and there's also a lot of cover and places that I could run and duck to. Worst come to shove, if I were to empty out my clip, and I know multiple places I could go. I'm real familiar with the area. So that 8+1 for potentially 2 robbers that were looking at me, I feel confident that I could handle it. Now the question is, how much training do you do? What's the caliber? How much you train with that caliber? What exactly do you do? What exactly do you do in order to train? Do you use the laser inside the gun? Because, when it's time for recoil, that may not be like the best course of action. Because, that is something you're going to have to consider when you're trying to accurately hit someone in the time of self-defense, And lastly, outside of, the caliber, how much recoil you can handle, how good the grip is in a likely situation, I'd suggest, and outside of where you carry it, I suggest, lastly, most important, how confident and how much do you know yourself in stressful situations with or without your gun? If you had a pocket knife, for example, and someone bucked up on you and you pulled out a pocket knife right off rip, you probably shouldn't be carrying a gun. You probably can't handle stress too well if you're willing to quickly escalate in situations that's not an imminent threat to your life, because that could get you in court. Now, if you're the type that you feel as if you could keep a level head and you probably done been through some stuff, maybe you could carry a gun and not think to pull it out as soon as someone punch you in the face or some shit like that. So that's the best way to legally get killed. I'll tell you that much. But in order for you to worry about the worst come to shove, I'd advise you, regardless how much capacity you have, you know, like I say, minimum 8+1 or just 8 mag capacity. Always carry an extra mag for you, just in case you're worried about the worst come to shove. Let me know your opinions, though, like what you carry, what you feel like is best. Tell me some of y'all experience, because the more we could talk about it, the more we could compare off of each other's experience, the better we could make ourselves at better defending our own lives.